This rather ordinary looking box is actually something we use quite often, and it's to do with food preparation. Now there's not much that gives it away. Its purpose could be just about anything, but there's one noticeable thing on the front of the box, and that's this little round flange. Now it still really doesn't give a lot away about what the box does, so I'll pull out the contents and give you a look. Now the bits you just saw may give you some idea of what it might be for. There will be some people who will probably work out exactly what it's for. What we have here is actually a pasta container. It's had some holes drilled in the bottom and some holes drilled in the side. Had a handle put on it. That's the lid. Little seal on the lid, little rubber seal runs around it. Now this little thing here is a cold smoker. Cold smoking is done to give a smoky flavour to your meat, to your cheese, all sorts of things, and in this case we do it with the aid of a little fish pump that plugs into the air intake of the pump. Now, this is all homemade. I'll give you some idea of how to make it in a minute. And it blows air up through here and down here through this little pipe. This little plastic pipe runs all the way through here to about here. So we've got a pipe that runs down into the smoking container. That's where you burn your wood chips. And a T-piece up here, 3 pieces of pipe, and of course this end here is the one that screws into the flange on the container. So it's a matter of screwing that in. We pop our wood chips into this, set them alight, and the pump keeps the airflow going. Now because that little pipe comes up to about here, it pushes air through this way, and that draws air up through the bottom here into this pipe, which then gets pushed into the smoking box. Pretty simple design. There's all sorts of ways of doing these. You can buy commercial ones now for, I don't know, 150, 200 bucks. This thing made from bits and pieces cost us about $25 all up to make. Now on top of the lid here we have another one of those round flanges. Just bring that in close. We've got another round flange on there that's bolted to the lid of the old pasta container, and that of course is what your pipe screws down into. So we have a short pipe here. This is all metal, threaded pipe, a T-piece, 2 longer pieces, and what we've got here is just some plastic connectors. This is all taped on. The hose from the fish pump runs up the centre of that. There's a pipe from this that runs down to about here, and then the plastic hose runs up to about here, as I said before. So we're going to put this into action now, give you an idea of how to use it. The cold smoking is a great way to prepare your meat and your cheese for later use. Once it's done, you pop it in the freezer, and when it's cooked, then of course you get that really delicious smoky flavour. Today we're going to do some cheese, we're going to do some chicken, and we're going to do some sausages. Now inside the box here we've just got a couple of ordinary oven racks. All I've done is put some long bolts through the side of the container, run the nut up to the back of the bolt, and these act as a support for your trays. 2 trays in there, 4 bolts, and that's where you put all your meat, your cheese, whatever you happen to be smoking at the time. What I did with the front flange is to screw it into a piece of wood that sits in the back here. So we've got a hole drilled in down there that goes through to the flange. Very simple, you screw that in from the front, just into the piece of wood behind. So that's all it is. It's a big plastic box, 4 bolts through each side, 8 bolts in total, 2 oven racks, the lid, and what you can do is just drill a few small holes here and there through the container just to assist with airflow. But that's it, so we'll get this going and show you how it works. So the first thing we do is we screw this part into the flange on the box. Now the air pump we got for this was actually quite a small one. You can get a bigger one, you'll get a better airflow. If I was doing it again, I'd definitely get one of these little fish tank pumps with a better airflow than this one, but it still does the job, so until it breaks down we're going to keep using it. What we do, we make our own wood chips. Wood chips in the shops are insanely expensive. You have to wonder why, but we've got some apple trees that don't really do much in the way of producing apples, but apple wood is one of the best woods you can get for smoking. So we've got a machine that will cut the wood up into pieces, grinds it all up for us, and we'll just give you a quick look at how that's done. Now these are the apple trees we harvest the wood from each year. We get way more wood than we actually need. We let them grow as many branches as they like. We don't cut them back until they get a reasonable thickness. Take them down and then we dry them for the winter. And when we need wood, we just chop it up and we get all the smoking wood we need. And this is some of the apple wood that we've collected. Some of it's a bit too thick, I think, to go through the machine, but the thinner pieces are ideal. I'll put a couple of those through now and you can see how it's done. Very noisy, unfortunately, so try to do it when the neighbours are all out at work. Of course, the little grinding machine is the Composter. There is something we picked up from an op shop for $15. Good value, gets the job done. And from that we get these lovely wood chips, which are then allowed to dry. You've got plenty at the bottom that are already dry, plenty in here that are already dry. Just a matter of putting a couple of handsful. Depends how much you want to smoke and how long you want to smoke for. There you can see that's probably about half full. That should be enough to do what I'm going to do this morning. Okay, so we've got the little fish pump on. We light our torch and apply that to the bottom end here. And the idea now is that the pump will help draw air up through here, and then the smoke will go through to the smoker. And here you can see it starting to come through. So we'll pop the lid on and then we'll load this up. We'll pop the lid on now, come back with the food we want to smoke, pop it onto the racks, and then we leave it till the smoke goes out, and by that time everything's usually smoked pretty well. So here we have the items we want to smoke. We've got some pork sausages, a couple of different styles, a few chicken legs, and what would normally be a pretty unappetizing block of cheese. So we're going to turn that into something that is more like gourmet cheese. Now we cut the cheese into smaller blocks because realistically, if you smoke that, you're not going to get a very good smoky flavour all the way through. It's a surface thing for cheese. Now that's sufficient. We've got 6 pieces there. Pop that on a plate and keep that separate from the meat. Because we've got so much to do this morning, I'm probably going to do the cheese and the sausages first, and then we'll do the chicken a little bit later on. Now there's absolutely no heat involved in this, so you never have to worry about heat here. It's cold smoking, very different technique. Hot smoking actually cooks your food as you're doing it. Now I don't want any chance of any liquid at all from the sausages dripping onto the cheese, so the sausages go onto the bottom layer. If you're going to do this in the same container with other food, you would always put your meat on the lowest level. Then we pop the lid back on. And we can come back every half an hour or so just to make sure that the smoker is still running and the smoke's still coming into that container. And once there's no fuel left to burn, that's it. So at this stage I'll just do another light, and that pretty well guarantees that everything is lit well down the bottom, there's plenty of heat and the air is being drawn up through. And once it's well and truly lit and the container is full of smoke, if your container is anything like ours, what you will see is just wisps of smoke coming from the edge, because the container, obviously the container is not fully sealed because you want the airflow to keep coming through it. So we'll leave it and come back in about half an hour and check that it's still lit and everything's going okay. So here we are with the smoked cheese. Just going to vacuum pack this now. We've got a few bags ready to go. Going to put 1 piece in each bag. It's probably a bit exorbitant, the size bags I'm using, but it doesn't really matter. As long as they are stored well, they should last quite a long time. And we have a nicely sealed up piece of cheese, and that should last in the fridge for quite a few weeks. And that's the final result. The cheese and the sausage is done. We're going to do the chicken another day. We've run out of time today, so not going to bother with it for this video. It's exactly the same process anyway. So once those are sealed up, they should last for a pretty long time in the fridge. And the sausages we are going to put in the freezer anyway, so they won't be a problem. we just vacuum pack them because, well, we figure that's the thing to do, and if we take them out of the freezer and want to keep them in the fridge for a little while, they'll last a bit longer.